given what everyone describes to be the properties that would be expressed by an all-powerful being in the gods that they worship, I look for that in the universe and I don't find it. So I remain unconvinced. I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. There's just no evidence of it. And this is why religions are called faiths, because you believe something in the absence of evidence. That's what it is. That's why it's called faith. Otherwise, we would call all religions evidence.
All right. So let's just start with the fact that it's wild to me that people still actually believe that. That's why it's called faith. The Greek word for faith is pistis, right? From the Greek, Koine Greek in the New Testament. That means trust or belief, also translated obviously as faith, not belief without evidence. So Neil has belief. He has faith in science in the same way or a similar way that I have faith in a higher intelligence, in God. I have faith in my wife, aka trust. I trust her. Why? I'm convinced that she's loving and loyal, even though I can't see or prove any of those things, right? I can't see her love under a microscope or weigh her virtue on a scale. They're invisible like God, but I'm convinced she has them. Why? Because I followed the evidence, right? I have conviction based on my personal experience, history, and evidence of her character. My faith in her love isn't blind, it's informed, right? In the same way that people's belief in God is informed. At least I hope in most cases, I think that's true. Every person on the planet has trust or belief in something or someone and or someone. DeGrasse Tyson, for example, like I said before, places his belief in science, following the evidence. And Christians place their belief and trust in God, following the evidence, right? What he's referring to is called blind faith, right? Which I'm sure exists somewhere in some place. I've just never seen it myself. So he says, you believe something in the absence of evidence. He seems to be completely ignoring the cosmological argument, the contingency argument, the moral argument from consciousness, the teleological argument, the fine-tuning argument, the ontological argument, the logos argument, or metaphysics, if you want to call it that, logos theology, if you prefer, from the rational structure of reality. So DNA functions like a language, for example, using symbols and grammar to convey instructions. It gives this word gives every particular its form, its pattern, its shape. Natural laws are mathematical and ordered, right? Why is reality structured this way? Are you trying to tell me that you really have never heard of those arguments? I have to assume he's demanding empirical evidence because I'm sure he's aware of these arguments, and they're good arguments. It's proper evidence. And by the way, this is a question I get all the time. How can you believe in God when there's no empirical evidence for God? So we'll dig into that. But firstly, lack of empirical evidence is not lack of evidence. Right, there are many forms of evidence for the existence of God. There's on the philosophical side of things, there's the cosmological argument, the contingency argument, the ontological and moral argument. On the scientific side, we've got the fine-tuning argument of the fine-tuning of the universe, DNA's linguistic structure, the clear logos present. Right, this logos theology and philosophy and metaphysics goes all the way back to Heraclitus and far beyond. Actually, you can. Well, we won't get into that right now, but we have experiential, of course, evidence, direct spiritual experience, answered prayers, well-documented miracles. The Catholic Church does a great job of recording those miracles and requiring. The requirements are very strict, actually. You should look into that if you're interested. And historical, of course, we've had the scriptures, we have the resurrection claims, we have the origin of Christianity to take into consideration, right? There's a valid argument for God from virtually every angle you can imagine. And on that particular point, here's the brilliant Alex O'Connor giving what he thinks is the best argument for God.
Yes, I mean, for me, the most powerful argument for the existence of God has long since been the argument for the existence of God from the number of arguments for the existence of God. It seems like anywhere
like
you
that.
look, you can construct one. There's an argument from biology and consciousness or beauty or contingency, the existence of this microphone. It's quite phenomenal in that respect.
That's a fantastic argument for God. It's great. Now, to deal with that common question, how can you believe in God when there's no empirical evidence for God? The problem with that line of thinking is, take the closest concepts to God: uh, love, truth, good, right? God is the highest good, the summum bonum. Do you believe those things exist? Love, truth, good. And the answer, of course, is yes, in the vast majority of cases. What empirical evidence do you personally demand for truth, for love, for good, to make sure they really exist, right? Keep in mind that empirical evidence is information gathered through direct sensory information or sensory observation and experimentation. So the answer, of course, is none. We don't require that kind of evidence. It doesn't make sense to, because truth, love, goodness, they can't be directly seen, heard, or measured in any strictly empirical way. And of course, the same is true of God. We know that they exist not through empirical observation, but through reason, the laws of logic, conscience, personal experience, and their effects in the world around us. We don't see it, we don't see them, but we see what they do in the world, right? And this is how we see evidence for God as well, of course, right? Through reason, through the laws of logic, through conscience, through personal experience, and the effects that we see in the world, like the fine tuning, the fact that we live in an information based reality, that you can't account for that sort of thing with a materialist worldview. We see that every effect has a cause, that the universe, which had a beginning, right? The Big Bang, the universe has a cause, and God pretty clearly fits the necessary qualifications for such a cause. So the question is, why do we demand empirical proof for God when we don't require it for abstract realities like love, truth, or goodness, or logic for that matter? Right. This is interesting. If we try to apply the same empirical standards to justify logic itself, we run into the same problem, right? And logic can't be observed or tested empirically. But just like love, truth, and God, we see its effects. We recognize its reality through reason. And that's good evidence, even if it's not empirical in the lab test sense. And that brings us to a serious hole in the materialist metaphysic. Logic, the foundation of all reasoning and science, it can't be grounded or accounted for in a purely material or physical system. So Neil is essentially saying that it is stupid to believe in God because there's no empirical evidence for God. We've already shown that there's ample evidence for God's existence. The logic that he's using to make that claim can't be proven empirically, like I said before, and he still trusts it. Do you see the contradiction there? All right. That's all I have for you for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.